All right, so today we're gonna be swapping out the radiator, changing out the coolant, and swapping out the hoses on the 99 Dodge Ram 5.9 Cummins. The main reason for this is maintenance. It's been at least, I would say 10 to 12 years since the hoses have been replaced. Coolant was done probably 4 or 5 years ago. And then the radiators, if you know about these engines, they like to suit up on the bottom. I've done my best to clean it with a spray cleaner, but it's at the point where I think I just want to pull it all the way out. And I got an Alloyworks radiator, which is a nice aluminum built one. So we're gonna swap that in, see how it does, see how it runs. And also some hoses. These are the Gates hoses from Gino's garage. So we're gonna do that, coolant, radiator, and we're gonna pull this out, and I'm gonna go step by step on how we're gonna do that. So tools needed for this are gonna be, of course, a set of pliers for the hoses, a 10mm that removes pretty much the shroud, the battery line on top, and miscellaneous parts. They're all 10mm pretty much for the radiator. And then if you need to fight the hoses off, the flat tip works pretty well for that, or the pliers. So that's all you really need, but we'll go step by step. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the 4 bolts right here. And that removes your battery that crosses over your radiator. We're gonna remove those first. If you do have like an impact, something that you're not gonna put a lot of stress on these, feel free to use it on here. For everything else, you're gonna have to use your basic ratchet because you're reaching down and all that stuff. Once we get this top part moved off, we'll start taking off the shroud. And then from there, we will go underneath and we will drain the radiator. All right, so once you have those 4 removed, you can just go ahead and pull this back, place it on your oil cap, that'll hold it back. Next, we're gonna move into some of the shroud bolts, which on the passenger side, there's 1 and then 2 down here, 10mm. So on the passenger side, once you have these 2 bolts out, just set them to the side. And then for your coolant reservoir tank, just pull back and this hose should pop right off. So from here, we're gonna move over to the driver's side, start removing all the stuff on this side. So for this side, obviously you're gonna do the top hose, which is just a clamp. So use your pliers, pull it back, and then start breaking the hose loose. And then from here, we're gonna move on and we're gonna remove the washer reservoir if it looks like it's gonna get in the way when we try and pull it out. Underneath your truck for the reservoir, this is your reservoir right here. You'll see I pulled the line to drain the fluid out of the reservoir. Right above the line, there's actually a clip. There's 2 things on here. There's a level sensor and there's like a motor plug, which pushes your fluid up to your windshield through the lines. So we're gonna unplug both of those real quick. And then from there, we'll move back up top and pull this thing out. All right, with both of those removed, we're gonna take a screwdriver and we're gonna put it in the back side, basically prying this away. And that'll pull the little clips that are in there out so we can slide this up. So just shove it in the side, pull back a little, and then lift up. All right, so here is the washer reservoir moved out. And these are the parts that hold it in that prevent you from sliding it up. So I tried using a screwdriver, slide it back there, it wasn't working for me, I was fighting with it. Easiest way to do it, honestly, is, so here's your shroud. You can put your hand down here, and you can push them by hand. Just push it up, and then with the other hand, pull up. That was the easiest way to get that out. Continuing on the fan shroud remover, we're gonna remove these 2 bolts right here. So you have 1 right there, and then 1 down below. Both of those 10mm as well. All right, so now we have all 4 bolts out that hold the fan shroud in place. The last thing holding it on is gonna be these little clips right here. So we're gonna just either lift up or you can pry up with them with a flat tip, pull those off. And it's important to remember to keep these clips because you'll need them for the reinstall. And also your bolts right here that hold the shroud on. You'll need all those for the reinstall. All right, so now we have the fan shroud loose, and as you can see, there's not a lot of room. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start removing everything from the radiator to pull it out because the fan shroud is actually gonna stay in place when we replace the radiator. All right, so now we're at the point where we need to drain the radiator. On the driver's side, laying down next to the intercooler tubing, you'll see there is a drain valve right here. You may not be able to get it by hand, so I'd recommend grabbing those pliers And then you're just going to twist, pull it out, and you will lose all your coolant. All right, so while your coolant's draining out of the little peacock, you can start removing the bolts that hold it on. So the bolts that hold the radiator on are actually just 2 bolts, one on each side. So there's 1, and then 2. And of course, set these off to the side, as you will reuse these as well. All right, after your radiator is drained, it's time to remove the bottom hose. And here it is on the passenger side. Like I said, you can pull this away. Still pretty tight to get down there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove it on the block side, since I'm replacing the hoses anyway. All right, so once you get the hose out from here, it's literally just lifting straight up and pulling the radiator out. Once I pull it out, I'll show you some parts that we need to swap over to the new radiator. All right, so old one's out. Let's go check it out. So as you can see the outline of where the shroud is and the coolant fan. This is why a lot of people have coolant issues. It's crazy, it just builds up and you really can't get to it to wash it. Everything else around it that I've sprayed down is pretty clean. And if this side, same thing, just a layer of crud. And this is, oddly enough, an original Chrysler cooler. So I don't know if the previous owner replaced it maybe with a factory one, or it's the original. No telling. 260,000 miles on this thing. Some of the things you'll want to swap out. It's not a whole lot, but obviously your hose clamps if you didn't buy new ones. Don't use the ones that you use a screwdriver to tighten up. These are way better. Last a lot longer, and they hold. They don't loosen up, they don't slip, they don't over tighten. They're just really good. And then you have these right here. These are where your bolts go through to mount your radiator to your truck. You're gonna pull both of those off, assuming they're in good condition. These look decent. And you'll swap them over to your new radiator. So we're gonna go ahead, swap some stuff over, take the caps off, and put this one in. So just a reminder, when it's sitting in there, these 2 at the top with the bolts in, and then these 2 pins are basically the only things that hold your radiator in there. So after that, your fan shroud mounts up, bolts up, as you can see. The Alloyworks one does have mounting spots for it. So we're gonna mount it, and we're gonna see how this aligns with the factory radiator. Hopefully everything lines up perfect. There's no issues, but let's start putting it together. I did misspeak just now as far as mounting the radiator in and swapping stuff over. These are actually on the bottom, so you have to pull these bottom rubber grommets out, because those are actually what sit in those holes right there, keep it from vibrating out and keep it from moving all around. So there's actually 4 pieces that you would take off and swap over to the new radiator. So here is a side-by-side comparison of the 2 radiators. As you see, everything looks like it lines up as far as mounting positions. I did put the rubber pieces on the bottom. Thickness, pretty much the same, I would say. If you could see, like, this is just a cap on top, so this goes out a little farther. The actual radiator is the same size. And then aluminum edges versus plastic edges. Can't really hate on the plastic. It lasted who knows how long. I've had the truck for 12 or so years and I've never replaced the radiator. And all your mounting places for your coolant hoses, pretty much the same. No changes there. The mounting points for the shroud do look the same. So I don't think we're gonna have any issues putting this in. And then once we get it in, we'll see what everything looks like completed. Reinstall is everything reversed, everything you just did. So radiator in first, connect your hoses, mount your fan shroud, and then all your other attachments such as your reservoir and all that good stuff. All right, so for reinstall, I installed the hoses first, just to make it a little easier. I can clean everything up, clean the connector fittings from years of old hoses being on. And the radiator actually just slid right in. Fit perfect, lined up, bolted right in, nice and snug. The cap's loose right now, but nice and snug. So now from here, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna connect the hoses. And then I'm gonna go ahead and, well, actually I might put the shroud. No, we're gonna do the hoses first. That way, if I need to move to tighten things up, I can move the shroud around. And the last step before filling it up with coolant is going to be to button up the shroud, and of course your crosswire. And it comes with new bolts to tighten it up. So we're going to leave these on and use the new hardware. And once it's wrapped up, I'll come back and I'll show you what everything looks like done. You can see everything is installed. The new radiator from Alloyworks fit perfect. Hoses went on like they should have, and fan shroud lined up perfect. One thing I did notice is doing this, removing all the hoses in the radiator, is I had to add 5 gallons of coolant, which a lot of people said if you just did a drain and fill and you replaced the hoses, it was 3 gallons. So I don't know if this radiator is a little bit bigger due to cores or not, but it was 5 gallons of coolant. But like I said, everything went together well, everything fit well. No complaints on how it bolted up and how it installed. So right now, 5 stars for this. Biggest thing is gonna be testing it out when I'm towing heavy and putting some miles on it to see how it does and if it can last as long as the other one. So easy to install, great product so far, and I'll do an updated review in probably 3 to 4 months after I get some towing under it, and we'll update this as it goes.